Are you a fan of old school base building RTS style games like Age of Empires?
I love them, and I haven't seen one in a long time, and I was really disappointed when I heard the new Age of Empires is only on the Windows Store.
I was also disappointed because I am a really big fan of Age of Empires 2 and 3. I love both of them. I have the Age of Empires 2 HD right now on Steam. I still play it until this day. At first glimpse, this reminded me of that, and within the first few minutes, I knew that I was on to probably a really good game. Hey guys, this is Brax.
And this is Moriarty, and today we're going to be taking a look at They Are Billions. I hesitate to call this a traditional real-time strategy. What this is a survival strategy, and it is super interesting. It is ridiculously hard. It's very cool. It's something I haven't played before. I've never played a game where it is me versus the environment, and I have to survive getting food and energy and all the kinds of things that you would expect in an early access survival game, like 7 Days to Die or Rust or any of those sort of games. Now you've got that exact same feature set, but you've got it in a strategy title. It's very interesting.
It is very interesting because if you think about your traditional RTS games, you gather resources, you improve your civilization in order to compete with other civilizations. But in this, you're doing it because there may be hordes of infected that come to your village at any time and try to destroy it, and you don't know when that is. This game can be infuriating because of that reason. You think you're doing really well. You're building everything up. You have all of these things gathering wood for you, gathering stone, iron, you have a nice population, you're building up your military and your defenses, and then all of a sudden like 100 infected show up and just destroy everything that you've built. I've never experienced that type of survival aspect in an RTS, like you said, but I love it. I think it's really unique, and I like the way that you always feel on edge in this game. This isn't like Age of Empires where it feels really slow and you can spend hours and hours on a game. This game, I think there's a maximum of 120 days that you have, and that's if you play on the easiest mode. And within that 120 days, you're going to get invaded. So it's up to you to take advantage as quickly as possible, build up everything you can, and get everything ready, because you're going to die if you don't.
Yeah, so the core idea behind this game is that you have to survive a horde attack, and there are many hordes, and that is mini, as in M-I-N-I, small hordes that will come in and they will attack you throughout, but there is a giant horde of up to 20,000 zombies that will attack you at the end of your game time. That may be 80 days on the hardest, or it may be 120 days on the easiest. Your job, the way you win, is to survive that horde attack. That is really hard. It is really freaking hard. I would like to say that I know what that horde looks like, but I can't make it past 25 days. The average time that I'm spending in this game is somewhere around 10 minutes before I'm completely wiped out. It is not easy, and I like that.
It certainly isn't easy. I turned the difficulty down, so I was able to make it a little farther than that on like the easiest level, but even then, I can't make it all the way through on easy, because I can make it through the first few hordes, sure, but it gets bigger and bigger and larger, and there's so many of them, and I don't know if I would ever be able to make it that far and beat a horde of 20,000. Maybe if I just spent days and days playing this game and getting good at it. But it is really hard, but not in a bad way. It's hard in a way that I think is fun, and I respect it for being that way because it makes you want to play again. When you have game over and you go back to the menu, you want to go again and see like, well, if I can get farther this time, then I'll feel like I'm at least a decent player. It just made me want to play more and more. It really did.
Every time I died, even though I got really annoyed, because, I mean, it sucks to lose, I always was like, you know what? No, next time I can do it better. There's a lot of interesting things about this game because of the AI that they use for the zombie hordes, which is that they are traditional zombies. They move fairly slow, though some are kind of running fast, but not really fast. They run like a zombie, like you would expect a zombie to move. But they move towards sound and motion, which means that the further out that you go, if you decide to send out some soldiers in order to clear out a group of infected zombies nearby, you are going to be shooting guns, which is going to attract additional zombies. And as more and more small groups of zombies come towards you, they're going to pull in other groups of zombies who just kind of all generally move towards you. It's remarkably good as a zombie game. This is one of the better zombie games that I've played in a long time because I felt like they were freaking zombies, man.
Right. They have a zombie mindset. They act like zombies do. And part of it as well is you are forced to go further and farther out to get more resources because you have to set up energy pylons in order to get more food, or a quarry or a sawmill. And the more that you do that, and the more that you build these energy plants and the pylons that basically expand your reach and your grid where you can build more stuff, the more you're putting yourself in danger of attracting those zombies. So it isn't even just about sending soldiers out to clear one horde. It's about, I need more gold and resources to grow so I can defend myself more. But the more that I expand, the more I'm putting myself in danger. So it's a really fine balance that you have to master. And that's probably the number one reason that I kept losing so much, is because I would overextend my reach. And next thing I know, I'm overwhelmed.
I've tried this a couple of times. I got to one point where I actually had a pretty decent base down. I had multiple layers of protection going throughout. I had different gates and barriers and all of that, and I was set up pretty well so that I felt a zombie attack could not easily overwhelm me. How wrong I was. This game will show you the folly in your hubris. It will absolutely teach you and smack you down for thinking that you are capable of doing this. I don't know what the meta is for this game yet. I'm not sure if you're supposed to grow slowly or if you're supposed to expand as quickly as possible. I don't know if you're supposed to send out various rangers and they go out there and try and, wipe out some people and maybe clear it up a little bit. But it's really difficult, and I feel like you're going to have to spend time getting better at this game. You're going to have to get good at this game. But I feel like it's also worth it. This is super fun. It's super cool and it's super neat. There's some things that are infuriating, however. For example, every single mission that you decide to go onto is procedurally generated, which means that you could, and it has happened to me, start right next to an entire village of infected monsters. You don't realize that until you move slightly northward, see an enemy building, and your archers instantly start attacking them, which draws out a whole bunch of freaking monsters that come and destroy your entire town. And keep in mind, for every building that they destroy, every worker that is assigned to it becomes a new monster, which means that this gets out of hand really freaking fast.
That is the biggest complaint, even though I'm sure they did it on purpose, that I was going to mention. I can't stand that. Once they take one of your buildings, you can pretty much just give up, in my experience. And I mean, that's on you as the player to always make sure you're defended from all fronts, but at the same time, it just seems like they are super OP once they take over one of your buildings, because then, before you look up, half of your village are infected as well, and at that point, they're just going to go through and destroy everything, and you've already lost. It's one of those things about the game, again, that makes it super difficult and infuriating, but also, I know they did that on purpose, and there was a lot of thought that went into it, so I can't criticize it as, oh, this was a bad choice. It's just really infuriating. But I will agree with you about the procedurally generated stuff, because I spawned in one time in an area that simply wouldn't work for resources. Basically, I was backed up, my town center was backed up against a huge forest, so I had plenty of wood, but I was also exposed in every other area, and there wasn't really enough iron and stone and things of that nature, so I felt like, well, this is just a really bad place to spawn in. So the procedurally generated stuff is really like a crapshoot sometimes. You either get lucky or you don't in that regard, and that to me was a bit of a problem as well.
Now, there's a couple of different maps, and each map has a different kind of feeling to it. It has a different kind of challenge that you're going to be competing against. The first map, the map that most, I think, people will spend the longest amount of time on, is designed so that there are lots of choke points throughout the map caused by impenetrable rock. This is actually really helpful because I found that most of the time you were in an area where you only had 2, 3, 4 ways to get to your base, and you could seal off those choke points reasonably well and hold them for a reasonable amount of time. The problem came when you had to expand, and then there would be thousands of zombies out there. And when we say thousands, we absolutely mean it. I was not exaggerating when I say that there are 20,000 zombies on the map at any given time. And when the horde attacks you, it is a 20,000 zombie strong horde. It is 100% just massive, disgustingly huge.
Right, I get the feeling that you are a little bit better at this game than I am, so I've seen nowhere near that many. I always die too early. But yeah, it's not an exaggeration. When these things come, they come with a vengeance, and it's really about being prepared.
I think that preparation is only part of it. I actually believe that some of the early game units are underpowered. And I feel like this is a fix that should be made, where the early game units, such as your ranger and your soldier units, should be able to kill the low-level zombies a little bit faster. The soldier, who already has a problem in the fact that he is noisy, and you're shooting people and they can hear it, has to shoot a zombie 4 or 5 times before he dies. That feels a little bit, I don't know, too long. Now, your units can achieve a veteran status after they kill a certain number of zombies, and they do get better, they do more damage, they do it faster, they can move quicker and things like that. But I feel like they also don't achieve that veteran status very quickly. So something needs to be balanced there, I feel, to make this a little bit more new player friendly. It's okay if they're not so good in the late game, if they can't kill the big zombies so quickly and they can't kill lots of zombies very quickly, but they should be able to kill a single zombie faster than they do.
Yeah, I have some concerns about upgrades in general in this game. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of opportunity to upgrade the things that you have early on, and because of that, you have to be really, really delicate about gathering resources. Like you said, it can take too long to kill the zombies sometimes if you're starting out with those lower end soldiers like the rangers or whatever it might be. I just feel like there's not enough customization of your civilization in this game sometimes. Like, what if I want to upgrade my towers or upgrade my walls or even have more than just a defense tower? Like, that should be there, and it should be there early on in the experience, where if I go out and I master the art of gathering resources early on, I can set myself up to be successful from the beginning, and then it gets harder as it goes along, sure, and I understand that, but I feel doomed from the start sometimes when I get into these matches, and it's just overwhelming.
And I think perhaps this comes from the fact that you haven't gotten far enough in the game. There is different technologies that you can unlock. There are different levels of your units where they can gain veterans levels and get better and things like that. It's just that it feels like it takes too long in the beginning. And what ends up happening is you have a bit of a snowball effect where it's really, really, really difficult at the beginning and it gets easier as it goes on. While yes, you want that because you're getting better in the game and you should be able to more easily take out a single person, it just feels like it is designed to punish you for starting a new game, and I'm not sure that that is really the direction that they should want to go in this title. Personally, I would rather see them make it so that there is maybe more lower level zombies at the beginning that are easier to kill, just because even if they upgrade over time or whatever, it is not friendly to the new player. And with a game that is gaining so many players every day, this is already one of the top sellers on Steam in the time frame of a week, that has to be something that they're getting a lot of complaints about.
Yeah, I'm sure they are, and me personally, that's something that I would complain about, but I also understand that some people that have spent the time in this game and are already really good at it are just going to say, you know, get good, that's what you need to do, and I absolutely agree with that. It's just, like you said, to synopsize, it feels really overwhelming at the beginning, in the first few minutes, and I don't even mean the first few minutes of you playing the game, I mean the first few minutes of every time you start a new one. It's just, those are the hardest times to get through, for me at least. But it doesn't really take any of the fun out of it, because it does make me want to come and play more. And if it was that big of an issue, then I would not like this game. And at the end of the day, I do. I think this is a wonderful game. I like it a lot. It makes me want to come back and become better at it. It's just, you're going to have thoughts when you first start playing it of this sucks. I hate this, because you're getting a little salty about everything that's going on. But if you get through those moments, then I think it's really great. I just wish that the difficulty curve was a little more pronounced, where it does go from easier to more difficult. Whereas now it sort of seems like it might go from difficult to easier. It just seems like there's something up with the difficulty curve and the learning curve in this game that I can't quite identify, but it isn't quite right.
The difficulty curve really is a problem. And the difficulty curve is strange. It is difficult at the beginning, it's easy in the middle, and then it is impossible at the end. It gets really, really hard later on. There is a major jump from one point where you're saying, okay, I finally have everything down, and then it just instantly gets impossibly difficult. But it's also really hard at the beginning. So you have this kind of dip in the middle in the difficulty curve, which is just super, super strange, and it's not particularly friendly to the new player. It should instead be an actual curve instead of being this weird little hook dip thing going on there. If you were to visualize it, it's straight, goes down, and then goes straight up into the sky. So with that kind of a difficulty curve, where you are seeing that it is not newbie friendly, but it's also only good for really good players, most people are going to peter out at that 50, 60 day mark. They're not going to get to the end.
Right, and if you continue to do that, it's inevitable that people will want to win at some point, and if all you ever do is get to that point and then lose, then eventually the thrill of getting better and hoping that I will win will go away. Like with games in which you rarely win. Like if you think about PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, I'm not making a direct comparison, the games aren't even like that, but for people that play that, they're only playing it because they want that elusive first victory, right? That's what drives them to keep coming back to the game. With this, I don't even know if people will find that first victory before they get tired of playing the game looking for it, because it does get so incredibly difficult at the end. Even if they play 30 or 40 times just because they feel like they're improving and progressing, eventually you're going to have to give up and say, I'm just never going to win. And I feel like this could be that frustrating if they don't somehow make it where easy mode is actually easy. Because yeah, you could win some on easy if you spend a lot of time in this game, but even on easy, it's too hard. And I think for people that are looking for a more laid-back, casual experience with it, they should have that mode actually be really super easy. Something that beginners can jump into and say, hey, I'm just here to learn. And maybe if I win, I know it doesn't count and I'm still a scrub, but then I'll move up and I'll play on normal and then maybe hard, and I will actually experience that feeling of how overwhelming it can be when 20,000 zombies come at me. But at least let me start out in a difficulty setting that isn't like that, where I can learn the basics and learn the ropes and then work my way up.
Yeah, and I do think that that is one of the concerns that somebody should have when they're picking up this game, is that putting it on easy doesn't really change a whole lot. It eliminates your score. You go from 100% score to 10% or less. It just completely obliterates your ability to get a score, which means that you cannot unlock future levels by playing it on easy. You have to do it on normal, or you have to do some combination of easy enemies on a short time frame or whatever in order to get yourself to that next level. It is not actually easy on easy mode. Additionally, there is no tutorial whatsoever for this game. You're just thrown into it and you have to figure everything out. So it is definitely not a newbie-friendly game. That is, I think, established at this point, but it is also really, really neat. The biggest concerns outside of that difficulty range really just comes down to their procedural generation, which is incredibly wonky. You find yourself very commonly on a place that has no wood. How do you compete when your new map has no wood? You are immediately throttled, and you're not going to find that out for a good 15 minutes, which means that you're going to spend 15, 20 minutes being screwed because you can't find a resource that should be there. It feels like perhaps their procedural generation needs some work. Otherwise, yes, I think this is a great, fun, super game. I really do recommend it, but I recommend it with the caveat that it is broken with its procedural generation. It is broken with its difficulty curve. There are problems with the unit balance. There's problems in this game. And considering that this is a $25 game, not sure that having those kind of problems is acceptable.
I have similar reservations about recommending it for that reason, because of the price tag. With it being in its current state, it's just those little problems, like you say, with the difficulty level, especially for me. And I can agree with you as well on the procedural generation, because I did get screwed over a couple of times by that as well. So I know what you mean. Sometimes when you start a new game, it's just not going to work out very well for you. With those two things in mind, I still think it's worth $25 if they are going to keep all this community feedback in mind and they are going to actively make changes. If that's going to be the case, then I say absolutely purchase this and count on the fact that they are going to improve it over time, and it would be worth $25. Unfortunately, I can't say 100% that I know that's going to be the case. What if this game stays like this and those two major flaws are never remedied? In that case, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it for that $25 price tag.
Now, they will eventually be introducing a campaign. This is a company that's existed for a while, so it's not their first game. But they are going to be increasing the price once they leave early access. So there's a lot of different reasons why really this comes down to what your budget is for games and how much you want to experience a zombie horde assaulting your town. I think it's fun, and I recommend it to people who are looking for a game that is fun. But I also think it's infuriating, and it's not infuriating because you're not good. It's infuriating because the game has problems. And those problems are designed to essentially screw you over from the beginning. That is why, with regards to recommending this game, I kind of recommend and don't recommend at the same time.
This might be one of the crazier things I've ever said, but I feel like there's a possibility that I might be more likely to recommend this game in full release at $40 to $50 more so than I would in early access at $25. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah. So there you go, guys. That is They Are Billions. If you like it, like it. If you didn't like it, don't like it. But if you do like it, you can watch another video up there in the corner right now. And as always,
we'll see you guys on the next one.